Throughout my career, the sales teams of the companies that I've owned have done well over $150 million in cash collected revenue. And now I run a $30 million a year sales training and recruiting company, sharing a lot of the best practices of what's worked for me. So in this video, I sit down with Pace Morby and share with them how to recruit, hire, and train high-performing sales teams, where to find the best reps, how to ramp them in the KPI, and also how to get better at sales and how to objection handle the right way. So enjoy the video.
Okay, so sales. You've helped me build my sales team. We have a team. Most of them are in-house now. We have about 60 enrollment directors.
Nice.
And we wouldn't be here without you.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What do you feel like people get wrong about sales? Like when they're jumping into whether it's info or other things where they say, I'm not a salesperson. That's one of them for sure.
Yeah.
2, I don't like sales. That's another big thing that you probably hear a lot. What are some things you hear from people that just get wrong about sales? Or things that infuriate you when people say stuff about sales?
Well, there's a lot of things that infuriate me in terms of what people do with selling, you know. I think number one, so in transactional type of sales, we hear a lot about discovery and, you know, you want to go deep, do discovery, remove objections before the close. That's obviously a prerequisite of selling. Like you have to do fact finding. You have to find out all these things on the front end. Otherwise, you're going to deal with those objections on the back end. But most good salespeople, after about a couple of weeks of ramping, they're pretty good at the discovery. And what I've really realized over the years is where we really fall down is the close, you know, and just holding people accountable. And I think that
meaning your prospect.
People drastically underestimate like the amount of leadership you have to show up as at the close. Now, everything you do before that makes it a lot easier. So you want to do everything before that well too. But at the end, I think a lot of people discount just like how important that leadership at the end is and holding people accountable. And it's like, hey, you told me earlier you wanted to be this type of person, right? And this type of person does these types of things, but now you're saying you want to do this. So like, who do you want to be ultimately? Because it's not going to affect my life either way, but if you want to be this type of person and do these behaviors, you're going to get more of what? The same behaviors.
Dude, I don't know you're selling right now, but you got me wanting to buy.
Yeah.
So holding people accountable, leading. I mean, people genuinely want to be led, right? And people want to be bought. They want to buy things. They don't want to be sold.
Well, they want to buy things from people who challenge them to think different. So, you know, a lot of times if you have a sales call, we had this morning, because I still attend all the meetings. I'm not even the manager. I just attend the meetings because it's what I do. So I'm like, I'm just going to, you know, if I'm available, like some days I can't do it. I'm not available, so the manager does it. But if I'm available, I'm coming to the meeting because it's fun. Like I enjoy it. I actually feel better about my business when I'm doing a little sales training every single day. But today, you know, there was an objection. The person wanted to talk to 2 other people that make a final decision, right? But here's the thing.
2 other people in their life.
2 other service providers.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
they wanted 2 more quotes or whatever.
Yeah. And so the thing is though, is if I can, you might think you need X, Y, and Z in your business. But if you have a conversation with me and I'm like, well, look, I do think you need X, Y, and Z, but you're thinking about it the wrong way. And really the way, if I was you, based on my experience working with just people just like you who are at this level, is they think about it like this. And what you really need is, yes, this, but you need to do it in this specific way. Otherwise it's not going to work, right? So like independent if you work with us or not, if anybody tells you different, like, I don't care if you work with us, but if anybody tells you different, I would run the other direction because they're just not being honest with you and they're just trying to sell you something. And so anyways, whatever that is, if I can make them think differently about their problem and solution needs, it actually eliminates they don't need to talk to anybody else because those other people they already booked those calls with fits their original perception of what they thought they need, but you change that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Like a great example is, you know, we might have somebody come on and they might think that they need, I'm trying to think of a good example. They might think they need more setters, right? And we might find out that, dude, actually, you have already too many setters for your lead flow. The main issue is these issues going on with the sales ops and you don't have good speed to lead with your initial setters, and actually you need an additional closer, right? So like, let's say I just say that and I reframe their problem that way. If they have calls booked with other people about getting setters, those calls are now irrelevant. Does that make sense? I'm trying. I could have thought of a better example, but you get what I'm kind of.
It's a great example.
You get what I'm kind of saying. Yeah. Like a lot of times, like our clients who sell marketing services, they think it's about I need a good media buyer who knows how to do the Facebook, this and that, and knows how to do targeting and knows how to do that. Most times it's not Facebook. It's your offer sucks. You can't communicate your offer. Nothing about what you do is different. Nothing about what you do is unique enough to where some dude scrolling on his toilet at 6 a.m. is like, that's interesting enough. I'm going to take a chance. Right? So if you point that out on the sales call and you help them really understand your problem's not X, it's Y. Now we'll help you with X. But like Y is kind of the foundation. And if you do that without that, it's like building a house on a foundation of sand. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if I can get them to agree to that, which an agreement basically means if once they agree, I've built a new belief, right? And I'm stacking those beliefs. Then anybody else they talk to who's not going to bring that up, and I'll even say this, look, I don't care if you work with us, independent if you work with us or not. If somebody doesn't tell you what I just told you,
run.
Go the other direction. And that doesn't mean you have to work with us. But like, this is actually what you need. And by the way, you know how you said that you've been working with people in the past and it hasn't worked out? It's probably because they hadn't addressed this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So look, I'm not saying you have to work with us, but this is really what you need. And in fact, I'm making it harder on myself in this conversation right now because it would have been easy for me to just give you Facebook ads because that's what you want. You want Facebook ads. I'm kind of going out of my way here to tell you what the real problem is, which is not necessarily what you came on for. It'd be easier if I just nodded my head along, and gave you the price. But it's because this is what you need. And then I'm like, and I'll be like, what do you think about that?
Are you bringing up this conversation before they bring up the objection? Of,
so what I do,
talk to 2 or 3 more people.
The way I look at it is there's intro, that's rapport and frame. There's discovery. Then there's what's called the transition phase. That's between the fact finding and the pitch. Then there's the pitch. Then there's the close. I bring this up in the transition phase. I call it the pre-pitch. And so the pre-pitch is essentially where I want to break down all the limiting beliefs that keep them from buying and rebuild all the positive beliefs that they need to believe to be true, that if they believe, they'll automatically, when they hear my pitch, be like, dude, that's exactly what I need, and they'll buy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I might have somebody come on and, we place salespeople, but they might not know, they might have kind of not read the ad all the way through, and they might want fully outsourced done for you sales. And also on top of that, they want a fully outsourced done for you setter team, and they have no leads. So in my pre-pitch, I have to break down, done for you versus in-house. And I have to break down that, look, like, I know you came on for this, but you really need leads. We'll help you with the salesperson, but we need to help you with leads too. And then I got to rebuild those other 2 things. But then I want to set an agreement and get their buy-in on that. Once I said, I'll be like, so I'll give and I do that all in a consulting format. So I'll start it off with like, look, do you want my honest advice on your business? Yeah. Okay, great. Look, this isn't coming from just me. I've worked with people like you or Tony or this person and this person. And I've worked with people in your industry, just like you, like this person doing this amount of revenue, this person doing this amount of revenue. So I have a lot of data, and I just want to tell you what I observed is working for people just like you who are at this level, which is where you want to get to, right? Right. Okay, great. So look, here's what I'm seeing. And then I'll kind of break it down in a consulting-based format. And then I'll be like, so what do you think about that? And if it's a lot of things, the key thing is when you're pitching or you're talking or whatever, every 45 seconds you do a check-in, which you could say, does that make sense? What do you think about that? Do you follow? Whatever. But so I'm kind of like checking in. Anytime I make a big point, I'm like, so what are your thoughts on that? You don't say, any thoughts on that? They say no. What are your thoughts on that it's
more open-ended.
I forget the NLP or whatever, why, but try it. You'll get a response. They'll be like, what are my thoughts on that? You'll get a response. And so, or I'll say, so based on what we talked about earlier when we brought up this, do you see how now if you did it this way, you would get this, right? So like that's another way you can do, but I'm trying to kind of, when you're pitching or when you're explaining stuff, you want to think about it like building a house and laying bricks. It's like you make a point and then there needs to be dialogue to set the point in.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like there's a lot of studies that humans actually, the only way they can shift beliefs is not by their own introspection. It's about socializing with other humans. Yeah. So that research was done actually with people shifting their political beliefs. And they found that like left to their own device, they can't reason to new beliefs, so to speak. But when they're in dialogue, there can be minor shifts to beliefs, which is part of the issue because we don't talk to each other as a country.
Right.
So if we talk to each other more, there'd be more fluidness to probably a more powerful center or whatever. So anyways, so you want to create, you give them a little bit, you give them a point, and then you want to create dialogue, right? And does that make sense? Cool. What are your thoughts on that? Then once I get kind of the whole thing out of the way and I've made my case, so to speak, I'll kind of recap it. I'll be like, so look, again, we'll get into how we work together in a second, but I'm just telling you what I would do if I was you in your situation. So we covered this, that, and the other. And based on everything I know about people just like you, this is going to help you get to this level. But what's really important is like, do you agree with what I laid out here? That's a very key phrase, because once we can have an agreement, I set a belief.
Critical.
I set a belief. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that's how I create a new belief. And by the nature of them believing that, they're also not believing the things that were going to get in the way of my sale. So that's how, when I do that, like I know I just went over the close and all this stuff, but that is how you end up getting no objections. Like most of the objections I get are more like logistical. I got to talk to this person. How's the money going to work? I got to transfer funds from here, stuff like that. But I almost can't, I don't let myself get to the end without, like, I'm going to know where they're at.
Yeah.
Unless I'm just taking a shot, like it's just a long shot prospect or something, but that's rare. I'm going to get to the end and I'm going to know they're in. Because I call it like, there's 2 sales you make on every sales call. There's the sale on like the idea, right? And like, do I like the plan, right? Am I sold on the plan? And then there's actually the purchase. But 80% of the effort on the sales call is like selling them on the plan. So like for you, with subject to creative financing, if I was a rep, most likely, it depends on each prospect, but almost probably 90% of the time, really my objective on the call is not to sell the product. It's to get them to 100% believe that the way you do real estate and creative finance and your specific methodology is the bridge between where they are now to where they want to be. Because if they believe that, then obviously buying your product is the next step. But they have to, if they don't believe that the method and the plan is going to work, then they're never going to, if they have to go convince their spouse, they're never going to convince their spouse because they don't think it's going to work. How are they going to transfer certainty when they don't have it?
Zero.
Yeah, they can't do it, right? Does that make sense? So it's always about selling. This is why, like, when Russell Brunson, way back in the day, he sold like all this money on Grant Cardone stage, and it was like the most anybody's ever sold.
What was it? 30 million and 30. It was like a minute.
It was
$1 million.
I know it was 10x2, right?
Yeah.
And if you watch that presentation, does he talk about ClickFunnels? No. What he does is he's really selling on the idea that funnels at that time is the most effective, best way to whatever grow your business, because most people were doing like websites, And so he's like, no, your website is your business card. What you really need is a salesperson. But a salesperson, it's not a traditional salesperson. You need an online salesperson. He made like that analogy that it's really a funnel. And so, but once you believe that, you buy ClickFunnels, right? So he talks about that in his book. It's like domino belief, but that comes from like age-old direct response marketing. It's called the central marketing thesis, right? It's like the one belief that if they believe, naturally they're going to buy. So really a lot of what I'm trying to do on the sales call is I'm trying to figure out what is that belief for them. And I'm trying to kind of chip away. I got to, do a lot of sub-beliefs to get them there. And then I get the agreement. And then after that, it's like going downhill. And then hopefully I don't have to handle objections. I got to handle logistics. The only objection, if they really believe it's going to work, the only thing that you'll have to objection-wise really deal with is fear. But that's easy. If they're just a little scared.
But how do you overcome the objection of fear?
So if they're like, a lot of times,
and the fear is usually the fear of failure. What if I buy the thing?
So here's how it shows up though. Because do they ever say, I mean, they could, but do they ever say, dude, I'm just scared? No. So what they usually do is they're like, well, I just got to still think about, and I'm like, okay, look, so money and everything aside, we laid out X, Y, and Z in terms of our plan to get you here, right? So money and everything aside, do you 100% believe that it's going to work? Right? That's the phrase. So again, you see what I'm doing there? I'm making the sale on the plan, on the belief.
Yeah.
Now, what will happen a lot of times is they're like, well, this, like, okay. And so I'm like, I can tell, like, let's say a lot of times, if they're certain, they'll be like, dude, 100%. They'll say it like that. But then if they're uncertain, they'll be like, they'll do one of those. Yeah. And then I'll just cut them off and I'll be like, okay, look, well, let's just be honest for a second. Like, you obviously don't 100% think it's going to work, which is fine. Maybe I didn't explain everything the way I should have. But like, what specifically is coming up for you? What specifically is keeping you from being less than 100% certain that this is really what you need? Because I know it, but I need to do my job and explain it to you that it's going to work, right? So like, what specifically do you think is making this not going to work? Now, back to the fear. So because when I ask that, I'm either going to isolate an objection that's real, and then that's like a little inch. Like, I think about this like squeezing the orange.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make the juice come out. So if like real juice comes out, I can handle that. Like if a concrete objection comes out, I handle it, tie down, new agreement, and then go back, right? But a lot of times with the fear thing, the way it shows up is they're like, I just don't know. They'll be like, I don't know. They don't say it like that, but they'll wiffle waffle again. And the way you get them to admit it is you just be like, just be honest with me, is it just a little bit of nerves? Are you just a little bit nervous?
That's great.
So I give them the objection. Yeah. I see it in them. So like they don't say it, but if I'm focused, if I have my whole attention, like a meditation, rested onto the prospect, I see it in their body language. So I'll be like, dude, it's just a little bit of, I don't say it's a little bit of fear. I say,
nerves
a little bit
is
of nerves.
Great.
I like the word.
What
a
great
nerves.
word, yeah.
And they'll be like, yeah, it's just a little bit of nerves. I'll be like, well, good.
Because nobody wants to admit they're afraid.
Yeah. So if they're like, yeah, I think it's just a little bit of nerves. I'm like, good. Look, I would think you were a little crazy if this didn't make you a little bit nervous. But here's the way I look at it. Nothing ever great in this world was built by somebody who wasn't a little bit nervous at first. So the real question is not like, what are we going to do about the nerves? The real question is like, who are you going to be in this moment? Because there's two types of people. Like right now, there's 1% of people, like you want to make $1 million a year. That's like top 0.1% of people. And then there's everybody else. Do you know what separates those two types of people? It's they bump up to this glass wall of nerves and fear. And the difference is who can actually break through and feel the fear and do it anyways. And who are the people who let the fear guide you. So which one of those two people are you going to be? Yeah.
Bro. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's so good. It's so good.
If you're enjoying this conversation and you want to be in a room of people who are just like the people I have on this podcast, so you can ultimately network with the highest level people in the industry and up-level your business, you should fly out to meet us in Scotland at the end of July. So this is a one-time opportunity where you can get a ticket to actually be able to come if you qualify to network and get content and ultimately work with me and my team and so many other high-level speakers in the industry in Scotland at the end of July. So you have to be doing at least $100,000 a month in your business to qualify. If not, don't bother with it. But if that's you and you're trying to scale to 10 million or even 20 million or 100 million a year, there's other people in the room who have done that. And the speakers I'm going to have in Scotland have done that too. So check out the link in the description and see if you qualify. And if you do, book a call with my team. We'll talk about the ticket price to be able to come. This is the only time you're going to be able to do this. So take advantage of it. Now back to the podcast.
What are the objections that most weak sales guys are running into, like at the end of the call?
So if you're weak, you'll get,
top three.
Can you send me something?
We get this in real estate. It's send me an offer. I'll look at your offer. Send me an offer. Means I didn't do a good job. So that for you and a lot of your industry, it's like, yeah, send me something. Send me a brochure.
Send me something. That means I want to get off the call. I don't know what you said. I want to get off the call. Well, I can actually, a lot of these ones are not one. I mean, you can handle them at the end. They're just tough. So like, can you send me something? Can I speak to one of your clients? I need to think about it. Can go either way. But like
meaning
a lot of
sometimes it's a legitimate concern. Other times it's not.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I think I need to think about it could just be, like there's certain women that that's the way they are, they feel a lot. And you can, if you're paying any level of attention at all to your freaking prospect, which some people don't, like these people are obvious. You can just tell they're like, they need, like they get information and then it like digests. That's almost how I think about it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with giving that person 24 hours. But a lot of requests for more information are just people wanting to get off the phone. The main reason that happens is because, you ever heard the term mansplaining?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like, or no, maybe that's not the right term for this, but regardless, what happens is a lot, you remember when I was talking about you need to make a point and usually every 45 seconds you need to check in.
Yeah.
And your pitch shouldn't be an anvil drop. It should be a dialogue.
Yeah.
So like the worst thing you can ever do, and this is like taught by some people, is, okay, I'm going to tell you everything about what we do. Just hold your questions at the end, right? Like, don't do that.
No.
You want your pitch almost to be a conversation, not a pitch. It shouldn't even feel like a pitch. But what happens is if you're talking to somebody who's like a beginner and then you start talking super high level and you're talking a lot and you're talking really fast and then you're not doing these check-ins because like you're not laying the bricks, you're not getting the understanding. A lot of times, and you've probably been on calls like this where you're like, holy shit, like this, it might not even be like you don't like the salesperson or it might not even be that you're not interested. You're just like, dude, I have no idea what the fuck just happened.
Yeah.
So just send me something.
Yeah.
Like sometimes my tax guy from Do Wealth, he's really smart. And he'll like be breaking down this deal or like this tax strategy to me. And he talks so fast and I'll be like, dude, can you just send me an email? I'm like, I don't know what you just said. I'm like, I'm like really busy. Can you just send me an email? Cause I feel dumb because I have no idea what you just said. Yeah. Like X, Y, Z in the tax code and this and that. And then I'm like, can you just put this in an email? Cause I'm probably gonna upload it to Claude. Yeah. You know, so it's not necessarily like the prospect hates you. They just might be like, somewhere in the pitch, they just thought, I don't understand this. I'm going to get information. And then like, I am going to think about it.
I just want to be polite and get off the phone.
Yeah. So that's a very common one.
Okay. What about price?
Well, so the way price works is, let's say I drop the investment and then you're like, dude, I really want to do it. I just got to figure it out to make, or you might say, dude, I really want to do it. I just don't think I can afford it. I say, dude, no problem at all. So just to be clear, so we can answer the most important question, money and everything aside, do you want to do this? Like, do you believe that what we laid out is 100% what you need to get your business to X, Y, and Z? And again, I'm watching their body language. I don't want this. I want kind of the still head. I want yes, right? And then, so if they say yes, that's the first tie down. The second one, I'll say, okay, great. Money aside then, you're 100% in. And then I'll say, okay, great. Well, look, most of our clients, they do it up front. But for certain people like you who are 100% in, and it's really just a way to make it work financially, there is times where we break it up. But in order for me to tell you kind of what's available there, everything is all customized and I have to get it approved by the manager. So are you open to having an honest conversation financially, getting everything on the table so we can see if there's a way to make this work now, or at the very least, we can create a game plan for us to work together to this in the future.
So good.
Right? So what I'm doing there is there's a lot of stuff I did there, but the main thing is I'm getting permission. So then they're like, yes. And I'll be like, okay, great. So like, let's lay out your finances and just be open and honest with me. So then I ask 3 questions. I say, this is like more in a coaching example, you know, like there's certain stuff that you wouldn't do this, but I'll say, okay, so what's your net income in cash in the next 30 days after expenses, et cetera, whatever, what's going to be left over in 30 days? That's a good question because it lets me know what second payment they can make, as well as you'll see the next question is a little bit harder hitting. So I want to get them in a pattern of answering my question. So they'll say whatever. Then I'll say, okay, great. And what's your cash on hand right now exactly? And you got to just say it, right? So you're literally going to find out. I mean, I will have them pull up Chase and tell me what's in the bank account, okay? And so a lot of times what they'll say, barely anything. I know. And I'm not asking what you could spend right now, but I'm trying to build a plan. Like I want you to at least leave with a plan so you can work towards this. So, you know, checking, savings, et cetera, what's actually available. And you just got to straight face say it.
Oh, yeah.
If you have baggage and you bring it on, if you think it's weird, they think it's weird. But remember, at this stage,
I say this to people all the time. If you make it weird, it's going to be weird. If you don't, it's
remember
good.
At this stage, because people think this is aggressive, but you got to remember, at this stage, they have actually told me now 3 times that they really want to do it.
And they've been on a phone call with you or Zoom for an hour,
so
45 minutes.
It's not like I'm like asking somebody who doesn't want to do it. What's in your bank account? I mean, they told me 3 times, I really want to do it. It's seriously just money, but if I could do it, it's going to change my life. Okay, I'm going to ask you what's in your bank account. So I get that number. A lot of times they'll be like, they'll say something like $2,000. I always assume that they're telling me, because when you ask that question, they'll tell you what they can spend, not what's available. Those are 2 different things. You know, there's times like you've probably been in this where you're like some big expenses have come up and you're like, babe, we don't have nothing right now. We're not spending anything.
I just did this last week. I was like, we got to pay for a whole brand new pool. Don't spend $1.
Yeah. I'm like,
Meanwhile, we got $1 million or something.
I know. There's been some times where I go to the grocery store. I'm like, we're not paying for that.
Yeah.
Like, we can't afford that.
Meanwhile,
It's
you
like
got $100,000 sitting in the checking account.
Yeah, or a lot more than that. So, cash on hand. Then I'll ask about credit. Okay. So I kind of had to they kind of had to undress in front of me a little bit there. So then what I do is I say, okay, great. And you really want to do this, right? Because what I basically did is I created when they got really vulnerable there, it kind of puts me in a little bit of a sales frame. So I got to get them to come back in on their own accord. So saying, you really want to do this, right? Right. Now, once I know all their money, what's going to happen is they might not be able to do it, or it might not be the right fit for them. And I'll tell them no. Or I'll tell them, like I said earlier, we'll create a game plan to work for this in the future. So we'll create a game plan to work for this in the future, and they will come back and maybe they'll buy. But let's say they can do it. It just can't be the full pay. It's got to be a 2-pay, or it's got to be a 3-pay, or maybe I got to do a low payment. And then, let's say it's a 13K thing. I got to do 3K, then 5K, 5K, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So then I give them a plan that I know they can do. And I'll try to weight it a little bit to like the edge of it might be close, but I give them a plan that technically the funds are there to do. And I'll say it like this. I'll say, well, look, just being honest. So again, do you really want to do this, right? Right. Okay. So look, I don't think the best thing for you is to go, 15K, drop this on a credit card and just do this in one shot. Like, I wouldn't even allow you to do that. But I also don't think the best thing, based on what we talked about earlier with X, Y, and Z, is to do nothing. So what I'd be willing to do for you is we can break it into 2. That way you can come in for half down now and get X done, get Y done, get this done. That way in 30 days, when that second payment comes around, you've already this, you've already that, you've already this, and you have so much momentum, it's almost like it's an afterthought.
Yeah.
But if I was willing to do that for you, are you willing to move forward right now? Okay, so you see how you asked, like, how do you handle financial objections, right? Do you see how, basically that whole thing I did, I could have just said, do you want a 2-pay?
Yeah.
But you see how I set all of that up to where now because basically my payment plans are my negotiating trades at the close. So you see how, number one, when I gave you the payment plan, I know you can do it. You can't tell me you can't do it. I know you can do it. Second, when I gave it to you, I said, if I'm willing to do that for you, are you willing to move forward right now? So the best closings are little trades.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens is I'm trading better terms to you for a decision now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And that's valuable to me. Now, a lot of times what'll happen is, what I try to do is I try to edge on a little bit more of something I know they can't do. Because people like concessions. They like good deals.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of no, they can't do a 2-pay, but I know they could do the 3. So I'll push for the 2-pay, knowing they really can't do it. We'll kind of have tension.
Yeah.
And then what I'll do is I'll relieve the tension and be like, well, and just to be sure, you do really want to do it, right? Okay. You're making me bend over backwards, but look, if you give me a case study, and if you come in right now, then I'll break it into 3 for you. But you got to give me that case study. And you also, in your case study, you got to say my name specifically because Pace gets all the credit. I get no credit. So you got to give me some credit in that case study. But if I can do that,
it sounds
move forward
silly,
right now?
but it's so critically important.
Yeah, and the other thing is too is that so when I do the 2-pay and I know they kind of can't do it, and I'm building all of that tension, then what happens is when I finally give them the thing that they can do, they want to take it because it releases the tension.
Yes.
And Cialdini talks about this too, is your second offer is more likely to get taken than your third, and your third offer is more likely to get taken than your second. So I'm kind of playing off that as well. But yeah, the framework and summary was tie down number 1, money in the side. Do you think it's going to work? Do you think it's going to help you get to blank? Tie down number 2 is, okay, great. So I do it twice. So clarify. Money aside, you're 100% in. And then I get permission. A lot of people like you, most people do it up front, but for people like you who really want to do it, sometimes we break it up. But then, how we do that is all customized. So are you open to having an honest conversation, et cetera? So I give permission. And also in that language, I say, so either we could do it now or we could create a game plan for you to do this in the future.
So many people are doing this wrong.
That game plan thing, what I'm doing there is I'm saying, basically, look, we're going to do this, but we might not even be able to do it. So I'm not I'm basically telling them I'm okay with there not being a sale.
Yeah.
Which diffuses the pressure of them telling me all their money.
Yeah.
Then when I go through the money, I go through it in that sequence. And I also assume when they give me the cash on hand and all this stuff, that a lot of times they'll use vague language or they'll tell you what they can spend. So then you got to clarify, you got to get everything out on the table. Then from there, and you really want to do this right, I get them to come closer. Okay, great, because I don't think the best thing for you is this. I don't think the best thing for you is this. So, and then I make the trade. Right?
So good.
So that's kind of the summary of that.
What's the psychological thing about people wanting to get a deal? You know what I'm saying? Like,
they just do. I mean, we like deals.
I know.
You like deals.
So I have this interesting thing where a couple of years ago I was transitioning. This is 2017. I was transitioning out of being in the living room negotiating with sellers. Mm-hmm. And I was starting to get on podcasts. So I was getting really, really busy. And one of my gals that was in the office, she says, can I start taking some of these appointments? I go, yes, but a couple of critical things. Number one, you're going to get leads that are saying, I'm good at this price. It's okay to contract at that price, but don't give them that price in the first conversation.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So I go Florida, I'm on a podcast. We get this lead that comes in. The seller says in the intake, I'm good at $200,000. I'll walk away. I look at that number. I go, $200,000 works, but do not offer $200,000. Even if we contract at $200,000, do not contract at $200,000.
Yeah.
So I go through the process and I go, look, this is like real estate investor 101. You go into the house. What's the number that you'd be willing to, part with? Okay, sounds good. I need to go get approval. That's way higher than what we're approved for. Let me call my supervisor and see if I can move it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then still be $10,000 below and go, look, my supervisor approves at 190. And then even if we sign at 200, make it feel like it was the most agonizing thing for us to get up to that thing. So they feel 100%. Like they got to do it.
Yeah.
So Anna, she goes, I get off the podcast. I go, hey, how'd the appointment go? She goes, good. I got it at 200,000. I go, but you never called me. Oh, I didn't need to. He was ready to sign right there. I go, Anna, he's canceling. He's going to call us tomorrow and cancel the freaking contract. She goes, no, he was so excited. I go, no, in the moment he felt like he beat you, tonight when he's got his head on his pillow, he's going to feel like he lost.
Yep, 100%. But the thing is, salespeople don't sell the thing that makes them the most money or therefore you the most money. They just sell the easiest thing there is to sell, right? So the reason for that is because the reinforcement loop of a salesperson is not how much money am I making today? It's the yes.
Yeah.
And it's trying not to get a rejection, right? That's why
they're so afraid of rejection. They're just chasing a yes in any possible way.
It's why, theoretically, if we had a perfect sorting system for leads, we could, if you had a $10,000 thing and a $2,000 thing, if there was a perfect sorting system for leads, all these people will go to 10K, then the people who truly couldn't do the 10K would go to 2K. The issue is just when you add in human psychology, what happens is when you have a downsell, it cannibalizes so much of the 10K, because again, it's just, especially as a salesperson, is it easier to do all of that wrestling or is it easier to just take the path of least resistance? It's just easier to take the path of least resistance.
Always.
Especially, to give them a little bit of slack when you're on 25 calls a week and, today's like your fourth call and like you got beat up on the last call and you're like, dude, I haven't had a sale in 2 days. Like, just give me a yes. Like, I need a yes. I need to get my, mojo
the
rolling.
Juice
so
back,
a lot of times I just remove that option.
We don't have a low ticket.
Yeah, good.
I have a lot of people that criticize us about it.
Nah, I think it's good.
And even I fought with Josiah on it multiple times. Like, we should have something. And he's like, no, because what's going to happen is it will cannibalize that.
Yeah.
That's the thing we believe in. That's the thing that's going to transform their lives. That's the thing that we're going to sell. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, got it. And it's worked out obviously very, very, very well for us. But me, even as a salesperson, I'm the same way. I'm like, just give me a yes. I'd rather stack up 5 small yeses than deal with 1 freaking no.
Yeah.
And so it makes a lot of sense. And anyway, that call, what ended up happening is I called that seller and I said, hey, look, I'm the owner of the company. Let me tell you what happened. I told Anna to not give you $200,000. Even though $200,000 is a good number for me, I didn't want to give it to you because I knew that you would be canceling the next day if we gave it to you too early. Luckily in real estate, once they sign a contract with you, they can't cancel unless I breach contract. But I said, there's 2 ways we can do this. A, we can just move forward with $200,000 knowing that that was the number I was going to make you get me up to. Or B, I got to sue you for specific performance, which is a specific real estate law. And he was like, okay, well, I'll move forward with you. He's like, why didn't she just give me a lower offer? I go, I don't know. And he goes, I probably would have felt better about the sale. I go, I know you would have.
Yeah.
And so I wish salespeople understood that. It also, when you don't go through this psychological arc, which you just went through beautifully, the chances of them making that second or third payment also go down, even if you were able to maneuver and like get them to do a lower payment option. Yeah. If you don't take them what you just went through, they're not making a second or a third payment because they don't feel loyal to the company that just did a favor for them.
It's the going above and beyond,
right?
When that payment comes around, it's a lot different if they're like, well, whatever, it was just given to me, versus, so-and-so, like,
man, Cole went out of his way.
They went out of their way, right?
Yeah.
And you don't need to necessarily do, I mean, I know in your industry you do the manager thing. You can do that just with your, like, a salesperson could just do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you just have to be disciplined. It's about like I don't know if it's the marshmallow test or what. It's like delay the gratification for 5 minutes. You're going to be okay. They're not going to hang up on you.
Yeah.
But they want the deal.
Man, I wish I was trained by you, bro. I wish I was trained by you. You don't train anybody directly anymore, do you?
No, I mean, there's one team I work with every now and then, one-on-one. I kind of just do it for fun.
If I was in your mastermind, what would I expect to get out of that?
Well, we do 3 times a year. The next one's in Scotland, for instance, so we try to make it a little fun, a little different. 3 days, half activities, half this, or half content like you were talking about. What I really try to make the mastermind for is specifically for people who are kind of in the online services economy industry or the high ticket industry, who are trying to go from either 100K a month to $1 million a month or $1 million a month and beyond. Right. And so a lot of what I talk about is kind of what we've been talking about here is the sales process, sales systems, sales ops, sales teams, setter teams, all of that stuff. But I also kind of break down and just share each quarter, not each quarter, but every 4 months, what's working with us across marketing, sales, operations, fulfillment, finance. Sometimes things that are just like, here's what I learned. Here's some of the breakthroughs and fuck ups that I've had.
Yeah.
And then I try to have either our top clients who've broken past $1 million to $5 million a month or whatever it is. I try to have them speak and share their stories. I try to have, people like you speak and share your genius, and so on and so forth. Or I try to bring in, experts to speak and also just facilitate a good network. So
you guys are $70K a year?
Yeah.
Bro, like one relationship in a room like that is $1 million.
Yeah, it's easy.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy. Have you thought about making a higher tier at some point?
Well, there is higher tiers. And part of that is when you bolt on, like we have unlimited recruiting packages where you recruit as much as you want.
Oh, that's
for
cool.
a certain amount. So like that's like a mastermind plus that. And then I'm thinking about, especially as my organic has been doing better, doing like an 150 to 200, 250K thing. But maybe that's just me and like 10 really badass people. And I like training sales teams. So I mean, it's actually fun for me, and I haven't done it since back when I worked with you guys. So like I think 2020 was my last full year of doing that. And so I train my own team because that's fun. But I love training just like the regular salesperson because I can just come in as like a force of nature. They're just like, who is this guy? And it's just fun to, and I can, my team, I'm kind of inching out little things each day, obviously. If I come into a random team, I can just make a huge, I can change the way they sell that day.
Yeah.
And the way they show up and all that stuff. And so I thought about bringing that back. Like, maybe I'll just like have some sort of package where I get on a call a week, not a call a week, but maybe a call every other week or something like that. And I just run their meeting, train their team.
Bro.
It'd be fun.
If you create something like that, please sign us up.
Okay.
Please. We would love to do that. What's a book that any guy, maybe a guy like me, right, runs a team already. What's a book that you suggest I read?
Well, have you read Ready, Fire, Aim?
No.
Well, that's the book from Mark Ford. It's Michael Masterson's like the pen name for whatever reason. But that's really how they scaled Agora from 0 to 100 million a year. And then, in that is kind of like you can see the initial seeds of how they got to over $1 billion. That's probably one of my favorite business books.
Do you have a book that you would have your sales guys read?
Well, The Inner Game of Tennis is really good. That one's really good. There's another book called Straight Line Leadership. And it's a book by this guy. He must have a coaching company, and it's old school. But he talks, it's like a personal development, personal success book, but it's it's kind of hardcore, and it's not like he really is like very blunt. And it's funny I have my sales team read that just because that book, the way he does these reframes and the way he like kind of coaches you throughout the book and addresses your mindset, they're almost all like objection handles.
Straight line leadership.
Straight line leadership. Yeah, and it's a pretty easy read. It's really good. It'll pump you up. But like some of the chapters and the frameworks that he takes you through and how he's like coaching you, it's like you could use those on your prospects. And if you read it as you're a sales guy, you'll start saying
Bro,
that
was this
stuff.
written in like 1985?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my god.
That's a good one.
Okay, I'll pick this one
Yeah,
up.
the sales like mindset all-time greats. There's not a lot of good sales books for like today's day and age, in my opinion. But like Relentless by Tim Grover, like that's a good one
Love
for the
Tim
sales
Grover.
people to lead.
Bro, look at the price on this book.
That one, no way.
It's out of print.
Oh my god.
So they're selling.
There's used like new though. For
used for $75 for a book.
I get it.
That must be a great book.
Yeah.
4.8 stars. All right, I'm getting that one.
Nice. That book, Relentless, and then I said the other one, Inner Game of Tennis. That's a good one. There's 177 mental toughness habits of the world class. That's a good one. Yeah, that's good for salespeople, especially in our industry, because a lot of the objection handling comes from you'll pull from that book, those books, because it's like a lot of mindset stuff. Like a lot of our objections are like mindset.
What's a habit that the top sales guys have like after hours that other guys don't have?
What I used to do is, I mean, this is like the common, I think Mark Cuban said, like, you work all day, then you sharpen saw after you're done working. But when I would finish work, and I would even do this before work, I always review my game tape. But I'll give you a very key thing. So I would do this in the mornings, actually. So this isn't after hours, but it's before. I wake up super early, so I'm more of a before person. And so what I used to do when I was full-time selling is I would listen to a win a day. So on 1.5x speed, because 2x speed's like you can't even, if you're working out or you're doing something, you can't even hear what you're saying. So 1.5 times speed, I just listen to myself closing somebody. And I would rotate through. I had a list of top 20 best hits, and I just rotate through the best hits.
So good.
Occasionally I throw one in there, but anytime I had a banger, I'm like, this is going on the playlist. And so I would work out, and because what a sales guy, what happens is some of them, depending on how emotional they could be, they could have 3 bad days, and they're did I forget how to sell?
Yeah.
What is going on with me?
It's the leads.
Yeah. What is going on with me right now?
The marketing department sucks.
And what happens is most salespeople, like, it's natural to have this, even when I was at my peak, I could have 10 calls in a row that didn't close, and I could close the next 5. There was one week I remember specifically where I didn't have anything until Thursday. Thursday I got 7.
Yeah.
It's just weird how it works. And so, win a day. So the reason that's so important is you're just reminding yourself how simple it is.
Yeah.
Okay, it's simple. I know how to do it. I'm really good at it. I know how to do it. I'm really good at it. And you're just kind of like training your brain also on what a good call sounds like, so you can kind of lock in that as a new baseline. If you want to, if you've ever taken a call and you're like, man, I wish all the sales calls I took were that good. Okay, great. Just listen to it every day.
Yeah,
I know that sounds so simple, but dude, it works so well.
Because I think what a lot of sales guys do, me included, is I will reinvent the way I said something prior to keep myself interested.
Yep.
Meanwhile, it was the line that got them excited.
Right. Well, David Ogilvy says the first person to get bored of your marketing is you.
Yep, always.
Yeah.
Always.
Because people are a moving parade, they're not a standing parade.
Right.
So, yeah.
I could talk to you about organic and cold traffic probably in a whole nother podcast. That has been a big challenge for me over the last 6 or 7 years as I've learned how to be a marketer, that I would go, well, my audience needs something completely different. It's like, no, they don't, because the people that listened to you for 45 days, they moved on to a new thing or they converted. And now you got a whole new parade. Mm-hmm. You got a whole new group of people. And they haven't seen that ad. And they haven't seen that thing. And they haven't blah, blah, blah. There's a new group of people that came into your orbit because of that podcast that have never seen a single thing. Meanwhile, I'm over here trying to tweak a line or a hook that worked well. And if you're listening to one win a day from your sales calls, you're going to be like, that's the line. I got to just keep saying it. Like Adele doesn't rewrite her songs every time she sings. You know what I'm saying? Like people come to see her sing that song because it evoked a certain emotion. And so for me, when I'm on a sales call, I go, yeah, but I said it that way before. People are going to hear it again. It's like, no, dude, it worked. Just keep doing it.
Nobody's heard it. Yeah. Who said that you want to find like the key to, some key to success, find something good to say and say it often.
Yeah.
I don't know who said that.
You did, bro.
They must have been smart.
They must have been really smart. I love that you do that too. My phone is full of voice memos of me in people's homes. So like all the way from 2013,
Nice.
when I got a hold of voice memos, I still do the thing. People are like, oh, get Plot or get the thing on your neck. I'm like, no, I'm just going to do it on my phone. So I put my phone upside down and I sit in an appointment. I just did this the other day. I'm now at a point where I'm like super gangster at this. Check this out. I now have the balls to just go tell a seller and a real estate agent. I'm in an appointment the other day and I go, hey, real estate agent, I want to review this conversation in a couple of days. Will you hold my phone and record this entire appointment?
Nice.
And so the other day I'm in this appointment and the agent is holding my phone for an hour and 4 minutes as I'm going through. This is the two sellers. This is the real estate agent. And I'm going through, come on, baby. Explaining, walking through the paperwork. Here's my pitch. Here's how do we do the thing. Get the signature page. This is where you sign. Da, 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 da. And I now will re-listen to that all the way on the way home. I mean, it's good for my students too. I can go, here's me in an appointment.
Oh, yeah.
But the way I got really good was doing the one win a day thing of like, all right, I'm heading to an appointment. What was the magic thing I said earlier? Gosh, why did I say that? Why didn't I bring that up earlier? I can now hear what she was saying that I missed. Even though I closed her, she was saying a thing I didn't pick up on for 20 more minutes.
100%. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's the
There's
greatest
so much
thing
that
you
can
could do
come
is
from that. Yeah.
So
it's
good.
huge. And it's fun.
It is fun. I mean, it can be laborious, but if you get obsessed with sales and you also get obsessed with the results that you bring, my final question is here. For the people that are like, sales is gross, do you have any advice for those people?
Well, nothing ever happens in the economy without somebody selling something, right? So, and it just depends. I mean, think about something you bought that you really like. Well, you were sold that thing. And so you should be thankful you were sold that thing because you really like it.
Yeah.
So a lot of that, and I'm not, again, like, I just try to find people who've already been through that. And that's who I work with day to day. So I'm not like Tony's going to be a better specialist, obviously, or even like Dean. Dean is a perfect example. He's really good at talking to the crowd who's a little bit scared to sell. I'm kind of talking to this crowd. But with all those things, like, they've assigned a certain meaning to sales. So if you're trying to reframe yourself out of this, or if you're trying to reframe your team or somebody you like out of this, if you change the context, you change the meaning, right? So like, that's kind of what I did there is like, if you think about something you were sold that you were like, oh my God, I'm so happy. I just love this thing. Well, you were sold that no matter what, whether it's through advertising, a salesperson, or whatever, And so if you change the context, you change the meaning, but that's what I would say. I don't have a spiffy saying for it.
Yeah, I think you bring up Dean. Dean's my favorite quote he says is, sales is a service.
Right.
And I'm like, it is a service. I think one of the best things you could do if you guys are a sales guy out there and you're trying to become a sales guy, or you're trying to do anything in sales and you have a sales team, one of the most important things you could do is show your sales team the outcome of one of the prospects, right? Like the testimonials. This changed my life. This was the greatest thing. What I love about these in-person events, right? Like we have an in-person event here. Mm-hmm. Where's my sales team? On the other wall.
Yep.
And they're in person. So what we do is we have them pop in, they listen, they watch what happens, and they're like, I need to get people in this room.
Exactly.
I need to. And so showing your salesperson the actual outcome of what the prospect goes through, I think is a really big one. But sales as a service is probably my favorite quote I've ever heard from Dean. And if you're not selling, you're not serving is another one that he said as well, which is basically the same thing. It just is like, gosh dang, if I genuinely like people and I like serving them what they need, then I better get good at sales.
Yeah, and a good way to think about it is you're moving, like sales is moving stuff forward.
Right.
Right? So as long as they need it, you don't want to move them forward on the wrong path they shouldn't be on. But as long as you're moving them forward is always good for people.
Well, my favorite thing of what we just talked about, and I'm going to have my team watch this, and I need you to create a more expensive offer so I can utilize you more. And I know I can text you anytime, but I want to pay my friends for stuff. My favorite thing that you brought up is actually challenging people during the close of like, well, you said this, and now you're saying this. I think the prospect really does need somebody to pull them through that, because they've got the psychological like prison, the analysis paralysis, and they're praying that somebody breaks them out of their BS, their belief systems. And a salesperson's job is to break people out of their BS.
Yep.
And that is I'm going to put that on replay in my sales room for like the next week and have them just listen to that part.
Yeah.
Because we do have people in this room, literally in this room, 300 people. There's a guy yesterday comes up to me and goes, I've been following you for 3 years. I talked to your enrollment team 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and a year ago. It wasn't until this person talked to me on the phone that I finally got in this room. Thank you.
Yeah. And did you ask him to text that person?
We're making a video with him today.
Okay. Because a good way, if your client success team, they're the ones who experience all the results.
Right.
They got to get in the habit of being like, hey, that's really great. You know who needs to hear this?
Is your enrollment director.
Because they have no idea what's going on.
They don't.
And
Once it's passed, oh
you still have his number, right? Because I'm telling you.
Bro, I'm changing that right now in my team.
Because just these, like if A is true, B is true. If a client sees something online or this thing on Reddit, or like one of their clients had a bad experience and refunded, it can throw the rep into a rut, right? But if that's true, at the same time, if they get the opposite of that,
yeah,
it can make their day, and then they're like, that's right, I need to get some fucking people in this shit.
Dude.
So that's a good thing because the CSM team, a lot of times, the coaching team, they're like, oh, the sales teams, they're giving me this, they're giving me that, right?
Yeah.
So, you got to kind of ask them to do that one thing for the sales
Bridge the gap. And also, you look at the prospect or the customer, the member in my community that joined after 3 years, right? And 3 different enrollment directors. There could be a variety of reasons why that happened, but he basically was like, I didn't join until this person made me believe this. And I'm like, can we do a video about this? I need the whole video, right? That was really good. But I told him, I said, I'm so sorry. He goes, why would you be sorry? I'm here. I'm happy. I go, because we robbed you of 3 years of your life by not serving you better. Like
100%.
3 years of your life. And I go, imagine if you had joined 3 years ago, if I had somebody, challenge your belief system, where would you be in 3 years? He goes, dude, I'd probably have millions of dollars and this, that, and the other, and I'd have RV parks. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sorry, because we could have done a better job on the front end.
100%.
Gosh, dude.
If you're a business owner who has appointment setters or an outbound sales team, you're going to want to hear what I have to say for a second. So a multiple 8-figure business owner texted me the other day, and when he started using Dollar.io for the first time, his pickup rates went from 9% to 20%. So imagine doubling your pickup rates and ultimately the throughput of what your outbound salespeople and setters are going to get. How does that impact your business? The answer is a lot. So if you want to check out Dollar.io for a phone sales outbound system, just click the link in the description or just go to Dollar.io. Now back to the podcast.
Let's say I want to start a hard money lending business as an example.
Okay.
And I want to hire a closer from you. What do I need to do before I hire a closer?
Well, so I don't know the hard money lending business super
clients that are fixing and flipping houses need money to go buy that house that they found to go out and renovate that property. So the main thing is just
the lead
money.
would be the fix and flipper.
The lead would be the fix and flipper.
Right. Okay. And then basically, okay. So, I mean, what would they need to be able to work with us?
Yeah. Like I want to hire a closer. I don't want to be the closer anymore.
Well, the main thing is a lot of this depends on the lead generation in each industry. And I don't know how the meta of lead generation is in hard money lending. But let's say if this person was running ads targeting fix and flippers with some sort of special offer about how their financing was different, really all they have to have is, number one, a validated sales process. Right. So that means the owner themselves has proved out that, hey, I'm closing at 30 to 40%. Okay. And I have the leads coming in. And then, given it's a 1 or 2 call process and it's in a transactional environment, transactional means like the sales closes in 30 days or less, you would probably need 60 to 80 live calls per month per closer. So if I have 60 to 80 live calls per month per closer, I can prove to them that, hey, I'm closing these people. Like there's a validated sales process here. If I have those things, you're ready to bring somebody on. Now, there's different, like maybe your person is generating the leads themselves, like the salesperson is, or they're knocking doors or whatever. It really depends industry to industry. Sometimes you might have to pay a base. But no matter what, like what I can say across any type of business is there needs to be a proof of concept of it actually working, especially if you want a good salesperson, because good salespeople have options.
Yeah.
And they want to go into a winning system. They want to know the car works, right? They don't want to get into the car and like they press the gas and it goes 30. They want to go 100, right? So it's almost, think about it this way. In the recruiting marketplace, okay, so like in marketing, right? Hormozy's like famous for this. if you want to get, your ads working really well, you put out a great offer. So your vehicle and how good of opportunity that your salesperson has, or that you're offering the salesperson, how good the leads are, how many leads they're getting, what the comp structure is, how validated the sales process is, how many case studies you have. That is like the offer in the recruiting marketplace. And the better offer you can put out in that marketplace, the better salespeople you're going to get. And, one quote I really like is every hour you spend recruiting saves 10 hours managing. It's something along those lines. Every unit of time you spend recruiting,
that's so
saves
accurate.
10 hours managing. Like, have you ever had a team? I know, isn't that good?
It's so true, though.
Yeah, and I heard that from Brian Chesky of Airbnb. So, he's running a big business. But have you ever had a team where you're like, we need better systems, we need better processes, I got to train these people, I'm going to train this person, I'm going to train this person. And then eventually you just like hire a couple of other people and you raise the pay and you get some new people in there.
All the time.
And you're like, dude, I don't even need to train these people.
I tell people all the time, people say, well, you need better systems. I go, no, you don't. You need better people.
Yes.
Because good people will create the systems around them.
Yes.
And I had an integrator partner years ago, still partners with him, but we don't build anything together anymore. And he would say, Pace, it's systems and processes first. I go, no, it's good people first. They're going to build systems that actually work for them, and then we'll duplicate those. And we fought about this for 5, 6, 7 years. And finally I was just like, I can't work with you. And then I worked with people like Josiah, my current partner. Now it's like, we just pay people the right amount of money. You hire really good people.
Yeah. One unit of time recruiting saves 10 units of time managing.
So true.
And so the thing is, what's crazy about that is like, we've gone through several we have 20 full staff recruiters. They do outbound full cycle. They could do headhunting. We also have like a bunch of inbound from our network. And
this is for your business specifically, where you train salespeople to go out and place them somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, this is where we business owners pay us and they're like, hey, I need 10 recruits or I need a recruit or whatever. Right. So we have like full staff recruiters, and that's not just people who come from my training. That's like, we'll go out and poach. We placed, this isn't even a salesperson. We placed like electricians for this one company. Yeah. So they can do kind of everything, but we specialize in sales.
I didn't know you were doing that.
Yeah. We're going to expand and doing different things, not just sales. So probably healthcare is one. HVAC is another. AI proof type of stuff. Where there's also labor shortages. Because I'm thinking I have this great model. How can I, from first principles, if I had to restart from the very beginning, knowing what I know about ads, call funnels, marketing, all this stuff, sales, and then also how good our recruiting team is, what recruiting markets would I go into that are just like ripe for HVAC techs, for instance, most of them are baby boomers. There's a huge labor shortage there. And essentially because of all the regulation, there's not a lot of people coming through the schools.
Yeah.
That could change in the future, but it's a huge shortage. So anyways, what were we talking about? Recruiting and managing. Oh yeah. So anyways, our recruiting team, we've gone through like 3 evolutions. And it's funny, like we were pounding the systems and the training and the interview techniques and this and that. And all it really took to take our recruiting team, I'm not even kidding, 10x their performance, was just raising the pay by like 30% per member. And the crazy thing is like, let's say we were paying $5,000 to $6,000 a month. Dude, I'm talking about, we just pay them now $8,000 to $9,000 a month. And what's nuts is because now we can get so much better people that the actual budget of the department is literally the same. I think it might be less because they can have more capacity because they're more productive. And so if you think about it, it's like 33% sounds like a lot, but we're talking like $3,000 a month per employee.
Yeah.
And to that, like to you and I, that might not seem like anything, like it's going to make a difference. In the recruiting marketplace, that's like a whole different trough of people. Like we were talking about earlier, like that's like going from talking to somebody who's broke who wants to lose weight to a high net worth individual. Like it's a huge, it's 30%. It gets you in a whole different response category of who you can get from recruiting. So again, like I've learned this I've learned it too many times to where like now I feel like I stamped it on my forehead to where I've like been trying to turn a department around and then it's like, oh, these people just aren't that good.
It's a human.
Yeah.
It's a human.
Yeah.
I deal with this all the time. I'm like, start over. Hire better people.
Yeah.
Raise the pay. Hire better people.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
And they'll build the department around themselves rather than sitting there going, a really good person walks in and goes, dude, I don't need any of this stuff. I'm going to build my own thing.
Yeah.
That's so true. Okay. So let's stay on the example of, let's say, hard money lender, right?
Okay.
Because I do a lot of lending. My audience does a lot of lending as well, where you would actually run ads, have people on the calls, all of that kind of stuff. So this pertains to you. And if I'm going to recruit really great salespeople, what would you say is the floor of a good salesperson's commission or take-home pay in 1 year?
Okay, well, it depends on, it could be different for any industry, right? But what you would want to look at is what the salary, pay scale, whatever.
But you're not going to get a good sales guy at 40 grand a year.
No, but you want to look at what the averages are of that industry and just go to the very top. Is what you're going to want to do. I mean, you want to be like what I try to be for our sales team is like you can't, like you're going to make the most here if you're good, right? And so it's pretty simple. I would want to pay to the top. How much of that is base plus 100% commission depends on a lot of stuff, right? Longer sales cycle and less frequency, like enterprise, is more. So on one extreme, let's look at two extremes. There's different types of sales. There's like relational sales, that's like a real estate agent. There's transactional sales, which doesn't mean you're treating your prospects like a transaction. That means that you're closing the deal
They're just happening faster,
in 30 days or less, right? Then there's enterprise sales, which is like a 9-month sale. So on one side, let's say you have enterprise. That's a 9-month sales cycle. You might only be getting 3 leads a month, right? And you're like working these deals. You might get one deal to drop every 2 months, but they could be $1 million deals. They're probably going to be 60, 70% base.
Heavy base, yeah.
Yeah, and then they're going to be commission. Whereas like the absolute other side is fitness, to where these people are taking tons of leads, tons of consults, whether that's in person in gyms or if it's online. And they have tons of leads, tons of consults. They're closing them same day.
So low or no base.
That can be 100, that should be 100% commission. So that's kind of the spectrum. So you have to kind of like weigh that and see where you sort of fall in that and then just pay at the top. Right?
Okay, love that. And so would you say that you could attract a high-level talent at 100 grand a year?
Well, I would say that it depends on the industry, right? Most cases, probably not. You know, like most industries, a salesperson can make 300 to 500 if they're really good.
Yeah, like
so like
really
that's
great
where
people.
you want to build your comms to be able to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be some industry, if it's like a super easy industry or something like that, where your setters or something could make 100 grand. I mean, that's not bad. But I would say 300 to 500 is like what most really good salespeople are looking for, especially right now.
What is the difference between a $100,000 a year sales guy in the same industry as a $500,000 a year sales guy?
So I look at when I try to recruit, because again, let's just go to the recruiting aspect, and 1 unit of recruiting saves 10 times managing, right? And that goes for salespeople too. So just as an aside, we did an analysis, and our best salespeople that we've ever hired in the history of the company, guess how long it took them to ramp up?
1 day.
1 day. Literally, they basically, from the first week, were at KPI and never left. Then if you go to just our mid-tier people who still made it, they took about a month and a half, right? So we want those best people. The commonality between all of those people is, number one, you want specialized knowledge, right? So again, you know how I was talking about transactional sales. So you want deep experience in the type of sales process that you're recruiting for. And that's very important because my clients, a lot of times, they'll be like, dude, I found this really good salesperson. And they sold for Salesforce. And that's like a prestigious thing. If you were like one of the best people at Salesforce or whatever, but they're selling Amazon FBA coaching for $5K. Sometimes that person, they don't work out. Not even because maybe they couldn't. It's just a different thing. They're not used to like the one call close, helping people overcome. It's so emotional. So you want specialized knowledge deep into the actual type of selling process that they're looking for. The second thing you want, which is really important, this is what everybody overlooks, is industry acumen. Okay? So that's like, can I actually speak the language of the market? So let's say you take like the most grizzled car sales guy veteran ever, and he goes sells the functional medicine perimenopause offer that we were talking about. Yeah, I mean, he just can't relate to the market because he's not the market.
Yeah.
Like part of the reason you can influence your people so well that follow you, whether that's online, social media, or even your clients or whatever,
actively
is
buying.
because like you're actively doing it and you were in their shoes and you've like lived their story.
Yeah.
Right? So you get them and you can speak the language of that because we all respond to like a tribal language. Okay, so those are two things. The third thing I look for is buy-in. So buy-in to the mission, vision, and values. And then I've added a fourth thing, which is really like, and this is a hard thing to assess, but it's their level of assertiveness. So like how, in those personality tests, they have, what is it called? Disagreeableness is like a trait. That's really what I'm looking for. And also like how centered are they? And an interesting thing that you can look for is very confident people, when they talk, they keep their head relatively still. Okay? Whereas like think about somebody who is.
That's wild.
Yeah, think about. But
You're gonna make me think. You're gonna make me self-conscious.
I know, dude. When I learned this, I was self-conscious for like a week. I was like this. I was stiff, But think about it. A very unconfident person, if they're selling, they're like doing a lot of this.
Yeah.
Doing this. So the weird cue is for like high status behavior, as they call it, is if you can keep your head still. Almost everything else, like your shoulders will fall back, your posture will open, all of that stuff. That's the one cue. So you know where I learned this? They teach this in acting. So because in acting, you essentially have to oscillate, because there's a really good book called Impro. I'd recommend you read it. Just read this chapter on status. And it's this acting coach, and it's about him teaching all these actors. And essentially in acting, if like you're doing a play or you're doing a scene, in every scene, there's always a play between somebody either being high status and then the other person is trying to push down their status and be more higher status, or like lower status. Everybody's assuming a status in a scene. And that's actually what creates the dynamic. I mean, this is every day and this happens in every interaction, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
But they teach that in acting to make the acting feel more real. Okay. And so one of the things he teaches for people who are having trouble assuming to be more high status is to keep your head still.
Interesting.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So, and it's so funny when I learned that.
So your recruiters will actually look for this in the process.
Well, I probably need to teach them this. This is like, but what's interesting is when I learned this, I was looking at all our sales guys and the some that are really good versus not really good. And I immediately the next day, I remember there was a guy on our team that was struggling, and I watched his call, and there was so much of this, and even watch like a podcast interview and you have the sound off, you'll see like one person is more still and grounded, and a lot of times the other person is like bobbing their head.
Interesting.
I know, it's so crazy.
That is so crazy.
But this happens very often.
What about the sales guys that are struggling? What do you think is the number one trait they're struggling with?
So most
was it like the way their parents raised them? They're just little bitches. Like,
well, there's a lot of things. So this is back to the assertiveness. Part of that category is I want them to have positive beliefs about selling. Like I love buying. If you find somebody who loves buying, they're probably good at sales.
I love buying.
Because they love the sales product. They love to be sold, so that when they're selling somebody, they feel good about it. They feel like if I was receiving this, it's almost like their version of the golden rule, treat somebody how I like to be treated. They're like, this is how I like to be treated. I want to be sold. Like I want to be pushed a little bit. I want to be challenged. So you want somebody who they like to buy and they don't have any like bad sales beliefs. So a lot of the beginners, they're like sales is bad and this and that.
Used car salesman.
And I just avoid that. Like I have a saying, like I don't want to have a Tony Robbins breakthrough with somebody to get them to be able.
I always tell people, go watch Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Like if you need to be yelled at, go to Ed Milet.
But
don't make me do it.
You don't want to hire for that because it's too big. Like they have to have a personal transformation to perform. So I'm never going to hire like. That is that's probably the biggest reason why a lot of people can't make it, like can't work out in sales. But for my clients and for me, I mean, I don't want to hire those people in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. I would say the second one is like just the level. I mean, I've had salespeople who I review the call and I'm like, oh dude, like you didn't diagnose the problem right. Like you got it wrong. You didn't give them the right solution, but they still fucking closed them.
Yeah.
And it's just because they're so certain. And I would say, I know it sounds so cliche, but that is usually the biggest like X factor that really separates the good people from the people who aren't as good. A lot of good salespeople too are just really emotional and they're a pain in the ass. And so when I have a client, they're like, dude, I got this person. They're really good. They're like amazing, but holy shit, they're so draining. I'll be like, okay, well, are they breaking any rules? Okay, a little bit of rules, but are they doing anything that's like culturally? Because you don't want somebody who's like that, but then they're out of cultural values, because that'll fuck up the rest of the team.
Yeah.
But as long as they're within cultural values, I'm usually like, yeah, it sounds like you got a good salesperson.
Yeah.
And like you're like my managers, I joke with them. I'm like, dude, you guys are just like therapists, right? So one of my managers, he literally calls people. He calls all the reps. He makes them call him right after their last call every single day. And the reason he does that, and this is like a policy that we do, is because, these people are pissed. They're mad about the lead quality. They're mad about, they're just emotional people.
Yeah.
And you kind of got to like dust them off. Dude, it's okay. Don't get in your head. There's just 5 calls today. You got 5 calls tomorrow. And you just kind of got to like recoup them a little bit because they're emotional. They're volatile type of people. Like Dennis Rodman? That type of personality where it's like every once in a while he just needs to go to Vegas and just go off the fucking rails.
Yes.
A lot of great salespeople are like that. And that's why we were talking about like they do nicotine, They're like, yeah, I'm not going to work this weekend. I got to go get fucked up. It's like,
good.
All right, dude. You got to blow off, do your
Let me
thing.
buy your
You got to
ticket.
blow off some steam.
Let me buy your flight.
What's interesting is a lot of times, and I have a lot of experience with this, and these guys can be good, but the guys who are like really like, they're super serious about the training and the scripts and all the things, and they're like obsessive about it, but they're like very polished, dot the I's, cross the T guys. They will not outperform I don't want to call them degenerates, but it's like the guys who have a deep, dark black hole.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I was coming up. If you ask Taylor, when I was selling full time, I had that, dude. I don't know where. I mean, I think I know where it came from, but I was just an angry. I had a big black hole, and I was filling that with selling units.
Yeah.
And I was mad. But you got to kind of know how to balance that over the long time because that'll burn you out too. So you got to balance it.
Sales manager.
Yeah.
You just laid something down really good. I don't know if my team's doing this. You're making me take notes. I want to go ask my team if they're doing this. Having a sales rep call them at the end of the day. What are some activities a sales manager should be doing that most people don't know about?
Well, let me tell you one that's just very obvious is just running a daily sales meeting every single day. And that sales meeting being
morning?
Every morning. Yeah. And that sales meeting should be very good. Like when I was doing the sales meetings myself, and this even goes back to like when I was doing football, I was like the team captain and I would always make sure I had this mentality that this is the most important thing of the day. Practice was the most important thing. And we have to leave better than we came on. Right. So there's this like convergent importance on this moment. And that's how I think of the sales team meetings, because we run through projections, then usually 40 minutes of it is just training. And a lot of times we're reviewing game tape. And there's a lot of learning that can come from that. So they have to leave essentially better than they came on. And I take it I have like a very serious intentionality with that meeting. And most employees, the reason they hate meetings is because the meetings are not intentional, right? And the fact is, if you only have intentional meetings, you don't even need that many meetings because there's only so many things you could be intentional about. But that is one thing that is super, super important. And like, I have a lot of people who are like, dude, I hated meetings till I joined this company because they feel like they can get better after every single meeting. So I know that's a basic one. That's one. The main thing that sales managers fuck up is you bring them on and they want to give you advice on your marketing. They want to redo the script. They want to play with the CRM, do all these, and it looks good. They're like doing all these projects. And the reason they're doing that is because they're used to winning deals, right? And that's like a good reinforcement cycle. They get the attaboy, they get the dopamine, whatever. But now they're in a position where it's not a selfish thing, which I'm not saying salespeople are selfish, really, they're serving. But what I mean by that is like, if you're a salesperson, you're tunnel vision on the next deal. You're like, where's the next deal? Because you can only be doing 2 things. You can be generating a call with a qualified prospect or doing a call with a qualified prospect. It's the beauty of sales. It's the only 2 things you can do, right? So when you go to sales manager though, you have to be selfless, not selfish, right? You have to not have tunnel vision. You have to be like, what is everything going on? And so a lot of times though, they want to, do a project. They want to do the CRM, do this, or migrate you to this CRM or whatever. So they can kind of like have some sort of attaboy, I did this or whatever. Really the best ones, all they do is they clear their calendar and their entire day is just helping all their salespeople in the field. So there's a couple ways that happens. The number one way is I just like stamp this on their forehead is their job is QC. All they should be doing is reviewing game tape of all their reps all day, every day. We also have a system where we can like on Zoom see essentially every single call that's going on at once. And so we can like plug in here. So like that's a way one of my managers does it.
So he's jumping in the lives.
So what he'll do is he'll like wait to the close and then kind of like nudge them a little bit. You don't want to send them too much stuff on message as they're on the call, because then they're going to get out of the present moment. But sometimes it's like, let me send a couple nudges here, right? Or he'll call them right after and give them some advice. So that's a way. Do a lot of game tape, send them the game tape. also be there to where if a prospect maybe gets stuck on a deal, hey, book them with me. We'll close them together.
Oh, that's great.
Right? Or, hey, you fucked up this deal. You need to book it with sales rep number 2 and then split deal that. So, what's interesting, when I went to Cardone's office and, talking to Jared and talking to all them and seeing how they do it.
Shout out Jared.
A lot of
Great
their,
guy.
Yeah, a lot of their deals that they close are split deals. So where a salesperson gets it to 9 out of 10 and then like the person just needs to see a different face and get a little bit more familiar.
Sometimes it's even a different gender, weirdly.
Yeah, it just can be anything.
Yeah.
And it just gives them like okay, there's multiple cool people at this company. They seem legit. This other person hopped in to help my account, whatever. And sometimes just hearing the same pitch from somebody else, they just buy. So, the manager needs to be there to try to get the team to work together. Hey, you can't, you fucked this deal up. You burned this. I'm going to reach out and have this person close it, and you guys are going to split.
Yeah,
right?
I love that.
So stuff like that, or book them with the manager. When they're doing the call reviews, naturally, if you ever review a bad sales call from your team, it's like infuriating. You want to throw your computer out the window. So you channel that anger. You call the prospect, and it's like, hey, dude, do you have 5 minutes to chat? I just reviewed your call. So-and-so missed a really key point that I think is massively going to help you in your business. Do you have 5 minutes? Because I just want to share with you that even if you don't work with us, they're always like, for sure. Or if they don't answer, I just send that in text format. They always respond because they want to know what was missed. And then I kind of created an open loop.
I imagine a lot of sales directors or managers are not doing most of this.
No, they don't do that. And so this is all in the field stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to find other projects that are not sales related to get that dopamine
Well, the
rush
thing
or whatever.
is sitting down and watching your team through game tape fuck up deals all day, it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. But it's like the boring work that needs to be done. So we call that a manager callback, to where you review the call, you're like, this obviously is blown. Manager calls them and either just gives them, kind of like resets them a little bit and sort of repitches them, which will increase the probability for the follow-up. A lot of times it's a 5-10 minute conversation. They're like, dude, I can't believe you called. No company does this, whatever. They'll just give you 10 to 20 grand like that. I used to do it when I was a manager, and I was like, we were doing over 8 figures at the time. And I was like, where can I spend 5 minutes and collect 20 grand?
Yeah.
So I was like, if I'm going to be sitting there brooding about how pissed I am at this call, I could either send all my notes to the rep and be like, you should have done this, you should have done that. Or I'll just call the prospect, be like, this is what you should have done.
It changes the whole culture
and
that
then
you're
just
willing
send
to step
them
in the field.
And then, and so, Napoleon. And so he was obviously
he's gangster.
One of the greatest military general of all time. They called him the little corporal. And the reason they called him that is because he would always be on the front lines, right? Like he would man the artillery sometimes. He got his horse shot out from under him 21 times. So they called him the little corporal. Like there's the famous painting of him. Nobody wanted to cross the bridge when they were bombing it with artillery, and he grabs the French flag and he runs across the bridge. It was like almost complete suicide. So I think about that, and that's kind of how you want your sales managers to be. Is you shouldn't be booking them calls. Like I'm not saying book calls on their calendar, but they should almost be paying their salary by 10x by assisting the deals. And as a salesperson, the best way. Have you read The Inner Game of Tennis?
Yeah.
Okay. So like that book shows you that essentially, getting like vague critiques, it really doesn't help a lot. What really helps actually is seeing what good looks like. And so what a lot of times what we do, and even we do this to an extent, probably too much, is we review the game tape. You did this wrong. You did this wrong. You did this wrong. I'm not saying that's not helpful. What's more helpful is me closing somebody myself and being like, you see what I did here. You see what I did here. You see what I did here. Also, what's more exciting for a meeting? Beating somebody down, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. Or be like, guys, let's review so-and-so's close from yesterday. They freaking killed it. We drilled on this thing. They did it perfectly. Just check out this entire thing and look how well they did. And everybody's like, yeah, they did so well. They're watching like him handle this objection, whatever. And then it's a positive thing. That person feels good. And then also everybody else who's lower than that person who's not doing as well, they're like, oh, because every salesperson,
that's what good looks like.
Every salesperson's like, oh, I think the number one guy just gets the best leads. But then when they're also like, is he doing something that I'm not doing? Or
always.
They're always like that. They're reviewing each other's calls. So that's the easiest way to influence them too. Show them what good looks like. And just as they say in The Inner Game of Tennis, it's like you want to model that picture of like what's good. And it keeps them also forward thinking, more positive. And so a great thing to do is if you have a manager, and if they just get like a closed deal every 2 weeks, you could break that call down in 3 sections. Day 1, discovery. Day 2, pitch. Day 3, close. and you're showing them what good looks like. They're going around and giving takeaways. And that's almost way more effective. The other call reviews are important too, because like they got to see their blind spots. But that's how you want to think about it. Yeah.
So good. I had a big problem stepping out of my company. I still have this problem now.
Yeah.
Not in sub 2, but in my real estate business, I still am addicted to being on the calls.
Yeah.
I think it's massive. I think it is what spurs on a lot of activity. But when should a founder be out of the calls and be more of a manager? When do you know that it's time to get out of the way?
Well, obviously, the first step is once the constraint in your business is availability, which because like you're maxed out, you can't grow the revenue because you have no more time. That's when you should bring the salesperson in, right? Now you're a sales manager. Then you're doing all the stuff I just mentioned, which still means you're on the front lines-ish, but you're not taking calls. You don't have appointments. You're kind of just managing the team a little bit. And I did this. I mean, I was doing, I was the CEO of the company. We were doing well over 10 million a year. So I'm managing other executives. And, when I would sit down to do my call QC or a rep hits me up and they're like, dude, can you call this person? I fucked this up. Like, I could still do that. It's not like it's taking all of my time, but a sales manager could do way more. So then you're into sales management. But then once you have a good sales manager, I would say as a CEO, you're pretty much out of it. You don't have to do it. But I'll just be honest, like to give you an example, like I still want to do it on the same way as you. Like if I take a sales call randomly, sometimes I'll take it with like friends, or people I know. When I close a deal, dude, I'm like ready to run through a wall the rest of my day. Of course. You're just like, this is awesome. Like, I remember,
and I bet
it's almost like,
probably respects you even more too.
Yeah. And then we'll review that call. And so I'll give you an example. Like I told you, we're launching, I don't know which we're going to go after first, but it's either going to be cash pay healthcare and placing like nurses and NPs and doctors and stuff like that. And then we can cross sell the salespeople in those businesses. Or we're going to be doing HVAC or a similar home service and placing techs or placing comfort advisors. And those are kind of the techs are kind of fulfillment and setters in that business. And then the comfort advisors are pure sales. And so when I go out and validate those divisions, I'm just going to take the calls myself.
Yeah.
Right. Because I want to see who these people are, and also like if I take the calls, I'm going to get ideas that nobody's going to have because I'm going to be like, oh, okay. Like they said this, we need to change the marketing to that. Cause I can think all across the business. I'm not just thinking about this. So I'm going to get so much intel through there and it's going to be fun. It's like talking to your
and you rally the troops. Like when
exactly.
other people watch you do the close, they're just like, wow, okay, 1, it's easy. 2, that's what mastery looks like what we were talking about earlier. But 3, like I'm not working for a guy that's a pussy that's not going to get on the phone.
Yeah, it's like Elon sleeping on the factory in the middle of the Tesla
that's
factory,
why
which by the way,
work their guts
and
out for that guy.
he moved his mattress out like from the office right outside of the office purposely so people could see him. Which, by the way, like he's later said, like he related that to Napoleon. And that's how he got that idea to do that. I mean, I think it was also kind of like just who he is. So there needs to be a degree of that. It like fires it up because you're not above it. But also the kind of the prerequisite of doing this and what makes you excited to do it versus dreading to do it is I think what's really important is you got to have a business where you love your customers.
Yeah.
It's hard to have a business where you're like, man, if I had an event, I'd want to like hide.
Yeah.
And when you can have that, it makes it a lot easier because there's a pull to it, not a push. If you enjoyed this podcast, you're also probably going to like this podcast I also did recently that you can check out by clicking the screen right here.